Welcome to Challenge 4. Today we're going to focus on how asking the right question can bring about inquiry. I had this major aha moment during this transition between Challenge 3 and 4, and I realized that we've actually gone through the inquiry strategies, thinking strategies together. Did you realize that when we engaged in the Golden Circle engagement, you were actually developing, engaging, and making connections to your prior thinking? Amazing, right? Challenging. When we were looking at inquiry thinking strategies and the inquiry strategies you're currently using at your campus, that was a challenge for some of you. We're stretching our thinking of, how can we make our learning a little bit more balanced? Do we have too much engaging? Do we not have enough relevant and significant? And how can we develop that? Then we looked at relevance, our own experiences, and answered those 7 questions against our unit planner and tried to infuse, how am I taking ownership of this experience? Now we're going into significance by asking questions that might be difficult, asking questions that everyone on this planet can answer. That takes scaffolding. And so I want to provide a scaffold for you. So attached to this post, of course, is going to be a question grid. It is color coded, and I'm going to go over this color coding with you. It's based off of Vierhold's 1991 question matrix. I didn't know what it was, and in 2014, I was on a team in Dubai, and I received this grid that was color-coded from a teammate. And it goes perfectly well with Dr. H. Lynn Erickson's leveled questioning idea, that there are different types of questions that we need to ask of students to get a balanced approach to thinking. So this goes perfectly well with our inquiry thinking strategies and helping support our planning. So what are these questions? So they are in 3 different colors. So in blue, it's the smallest, it's one of the smallest quadrants. It is focused on developing low-level factual questions, such as, what is force and motion? Who was Steve Jobs? These are factual questions that can be instantly answered on Google, right? It doesn't take much thinking, but we need to ask deeper questions than this. We need this factual content, don't get me wrong, because we can't build conceptual understanding on nothing. We have to have a lot of facts. It's about now, how do we ask different types of questions that are going to yield and corral those factual responses. So now we go on to the biggest quadrant, which is yellow. It acts actually 2 sections, and these questions yield what's called a conceptual response. And a conceptual response is finding connections and commonalities amongst everything that we're learning. It largely depends on your perspective of how you look at it, how you're going to answer it. So it can have multiple responses. So a possible question is, who might benefit from child labor? We have a lot of countries in this world that still utilize child labor. That is a powerful question. Who benefits from that? Do the children that are oftentimes orphans, working at as young as 5, sometimes 7 years old, and not going to school, are they benefiting? So that's a question that poses a lot of thinking, like, wow, who does benefit from this? And does it go up to bigger corporations? What does that mean about our consumption of products that rely on child labor? Woo, so many places it can go. Another possible conceptual question, what would happen if everyone had a good paying job? Wow, can you imagine the possibilities there? Imagine America. I'm just going to pick the country that I'm from and that I love and that I live in currently. What would happen if every person in this country had a good paying job that could afford them to get off welfare, to afford them decent housing, healthcare, quality of life? How would that shift the dynamics of America? Right? So this is conceptual question thinking. They should be plentiful. These are the ones that you're delving into the meat. So if you're personally speaking, I always use a factual question in the beginning to just kind of get some information. I'll sometimes ask a conceptual question to hook them, but then as I go deeper and deeper, I want these conceptual questions to be reinforced, to prod and poke the kids' learning. But now we need to turn in or serve a curveball. We need to give them what are called provocative or debatable questions. And just like a debate, you take a side and you provide evidence. All of these support learning standards, ironically, of children making a statement, picking a side, being able to challenge and provide evidence. This all reinforces standards they've got to do, but in a meaningful way. So debatable questions, they open up a can of worms. So a possible debatable question is, how will my choices affect others? Wow, you're asking children to really go through the chain of command of looking at, okay, here's my actions, well, how it impacts this person and this person and this person, and how does that broad sweep across a greater continuum? Woo. And why would someone want to join a peaceful protest? That's relevant, right? People are wanting to know that. So this is your challenge today. What you're going to do is you're going to go through and identify the questions you're asking in your unit planner or the planner from the district and itemize. Do you have factual, conceptual, or debatable questions? Because we're going to, just like the thinking strategies, we're going to assess where's the balance. How can we change this? So we're going to go through the process of how can we change in our live session. And then we're also going to look at, okay, how can I scaffold up to this process with the engagement called the QFT. The QFT we're going to use to help students to first know open and closed questions. And basically that lays the foundation for your factual, conceptual, and debatable ideas. Once again, don't forget your guide, and don't forget there's our podcast that goes into more details. And I'll have that burning question post as well as the materials for you. You can do this. We're almost there.